Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming in a special video for you today. We're talking more Honor of Kings World, which is of course an Eastern fantasy multiplayer action RPG game, and it features monster style boss fights that in its original trailer screamed Monster Hunter to us. And while we've covered this game for its various trailers throughout the past, and would continue to do so, we've actually been approached by Timmy Studios to cover their newest trailer that came with Gamescom and the new gameplay, and have been asked simply to talk about it. So it's a perfect opportunity for us. Let's get into it. We'll start with a quick overview of what the game is and the context before we look at that new trailer. Honor of Kings is actually a massive MOBA, one of the most popular in the world. It had over 100 million average active users in 2020, whereas Honor of Kings World is continuing its universe now, the characters and its world brought into a new saga and type of game. And rather than single player, it's a multiplayer experience. It's also going to be cross-platform, and while it's set in a big world to explore with a main story to follow, with like key characters that are going to develop, its combat is designed for intense action and varied RPG elements. So, you could be a fan of the original game and universe, and there you'll see familiar names and faces pop up, but with it being a different style of game from the original MOBA, they're looking to expand on their universe, and maybe what that means. The game itself is created by Timmy Studio Group though. These people have created Call of Duty Mobile, Pokemon Unite, Delta Force, and hey, Monster Hunter Outlanders, which is coming soon itself, which we've been talking about recently. So it's a team with over a decade of experience and a lot of success in that time. For this game then, the combat's from a third-person perspective, with action RPG being the core. We know that each character is essentially a class with their own playstyle, abilities, ultimates and weapons. But they also have skill trees to further the progression and customization. We can see a big difference between those classes with say this flying gunner who hangs in the air and fights from above, or this larger sword wielder who lands these counters and parries. There's the dual blade wielder, or this magic archer, some kind of high-tech caster, the familiar multi-weapon wielding original character who drags this enemy up into the air here, only for them to swap to a dual blades user to continue the chain mid-air. So there's a kind of tag team system there. Like I said, it's in a big world you want to explore. There's going to be dungeons with puzzles, and bosses and other challenges. The bosses look very unique, especially the big ones, like this mask-wielding monkey who changes their fighting style and personality with each mask they equip. So that's a lot to take in. Let's slow down and take a look at the new gameplay and new trailer so we can discuss what's being shown. So for the trailer, we have an initial story section introducing our first character, one who's been asleep for an unknown long time. Referred to as Primal Flow, this character wakes up, and now we get to properly see that same setting we saw in the first trailer 3 years ago, but with some proper gameplay. As they move through this huge green mountainous area with the big valleys, or now this yellow field of wheat, strangely shaped nature. And so of course it's set in that Eastern fantasy setting. So with a heavy Eastern fantasy theme, you'll see that throughout all the footage today. The trailer quickly leads into a gathering of a team then, as 4 unique characters meet up and aim for an objective here, only to be interrupted by this unknown character who seems to know a lot we don't and kind of hates this place. They wield this massive greatsword and challenge us directly. All of it happens in this strange cave with this mysterious power system, and as we explore this unknown place, the party encounters multiple ancient guardians of different construct types, like this golem, the dual axe general, or a mechanical fish here, or Bifang, a mechanical bird of prey, ending with a huge challenge it would look like, a giant golem well bigger than the rest. So that's the kind of story and setting for the trailer. It's a lot going on story and gameplay wise. From the short section with Bifang, we see 4 players listed with health and their own mana systems. We have 3 main abilities, each with their own cooldowns, and an ultimate that's larger to the side of that. It also actually shows off the 4-party team in a dungeon environment properly now, where they're facing boss after boss. In that short gameplay section, we see each player controlling multiple characters at once, that tag team system again. Our player here starts as a magic caster, generating shields for the team, using all 3 of their abilities before then swapping to Primal Flow, the multiple weapon user. On that character, they land multiple perfect evades and then go straight for an ultimate attack, generating this glowing sword to smash with. Then we get a glimpse of the dual axe general, this time from the POV of a player using the magic archer known as Garo, flowing around with pretty graceful movement, sliding and perfect evading the shockwave attack. While they're doing this, they're firing off shots. They then swap back into Primal Flow to dive in with a dual blade setup, mixing the weapons and playstyles instantly. So yeah, a lot going on we can definitely learn from, but let's go through the gameplay they've shown against that boss. where they warned us at the start that this is actual gameplay, but the game is still in development, so this doesn't fully reflect the final game, which is important to think about. It opens again in a 4-party context, seemingly midway through the dungeon of the trailer. Here the players are activating a pressure plate that raises up a pillar. The top half goes away with it. So to solve this puzzle, a different player runs up and freezes the pillar in place. This lets another player step back onto the pressure plate, lowering the top without moving the bottom, connecting them. This activates and powers the door. So you've got puzzles to solve in the dungeons involving the unique powers of the characters to actually beat them. Anyway, they enter the room behind it to find the arena with the boss by Fang. Interestingly, it's listed as a beginner in this version at level 42, so maybe there's harder versions. We actually bounce around the perspective of the different players in this footage. So we start with the perspective of player 3. They're playing Princess Frost, a spellcaster who instantly provides a shield of ice for the team on a 20-second cooldown as it shows, looking like a great defensive spell before you swap to a different character. The boss itself is flying backwards and forwards initially, creating these lines of seemingly blue fire you don't want to get touched by, but the element potency seems really high in this game, as they literally freeze this boss in place, interrupting it before even dealing with a stagger. This player then swaps to a different class, Sun Bin, who's able to fly into the air and start using some sort of advanced technology to fight. They expend their abilities and then swap back to Frost, who's about ready to shield again. So swapping between your two characters, managing your cooldowns and making the most of them seems pretty important. The player then activates their Chrono Anomaly. It's a unique style that lets them freeze or slow the target. This is actually shown in past reveals, and apparently there's multiple unique styles that allow you to fight in different ways in your characters. In this case then, that occurs, and then we swap to the perspective of Primal Flow, a fighter that swaps between the variety of weapons as we've seen. We've seen them use a crazy amount. A larger sword, the dual blades, also a hammer, a spear type, thrown rings. In other gameplay, I think I've seen the same character use a bow and a staff even for basic spellcasting, so they seem like a jack of all trades. Anyway, this player then swaps to Garrow, the magic archer, who backs up and releases a volley of arrows. They seem to be able to fire super quick while moving at the same time, which should be a great way to learn the game and mechanics. One of their abilities looks to be a potent charged single shot, or these fast shots that actually break through Bai Fang's armor in this situation, stunning it. Now, damaging a stunned enemy looks like it does bonus damage, so it should be a great DPS window. On that note, this player goes for the ultimate, which is a big arrow single shot dealing nearly 8,000 damage on its own, with a big plus 6,000 on the side thanks to the stun. So yeah, dumping ultimates here seems great. They then swap to Primal Flow for similar purposes. Bai Fang starts to spin now though, flinging out attack after attack in a very chaotic manner, only to disappear, leaving behind this electric looking ground that seems like a bad idea to stand on. So this player starts to use their grapple and hang in the air to avoid it. But then you look at player 2 here, who's standing in the center. They're on a different character and they seem to be doing it intentionally. We see them tank the hit as Bai Fang slams down, guarding at the last moment, completely mitigating the attack with that perfect parry. Everything looks like it was going pretty well until player 4 goes down here, so we see player 3 walk over and channel a quick rescue, reviving them, before they swap back to Frost to use their ultimate pretty quick. Finally, we see player 1 on Primal double strike with this spear style attack, which finally finishes the boss. So yeah, I hope that was a good overview of all the things going on in that fight, or at least the main events to mention. That's everything we've seen from the new trailer and the new gameplay. But you know, we've seen other trailers and other reveals that we've already covered on the channel, like the boss fight against the Crimson Beast. In that footage, we also saw how players could summon in allied beasts. These seem to deal specific damage, like the Azure Beast here, a frost summon, which seems like a great idea against the Crimson Beast, or maybe just fire targets in general. They seem to pop in for a brief time for a strong effect, then disappear, but again, still looks very impactful. So it seems like there's a lot of choice and a lot to manage outside of the classes themselves, on top of swapping between them mid-fight. But yeah, we've been interested in this game for quite a while as Monster Hunter fans. Satisfying boss fights with monster style designs, with mechanics you definitely can't ignore, strength and weaknesses that you have to adapt to, unique weapons and different fighting styles. It's been a long time since we've had anything that kind of scratches that big monster fight itch for a new IP. So we're still just wanting to learn a bit more about the game. In interviews, it's been revealed that other multiplayer modes are coming for the full release. So maybe other stuff than just the dungeon concept we've seen. We've seen fights take place with just 2 players rather than a full party of 4. Maybe they'll go bigger and create like 8-player raids or whatever. Or maybe they might mean PvP potential. We'll see. We've seen glimpses of the open world and general exploration and the city or hub that they've got, but I'd like to see more of it. In one of the earlier trailers, we saw the player gliding over the terrain, or we saw them swimming underwater through a cave, we saw them pulling themselves through the air with a grapple. There's the jumping puzzle style terrain where all of that's going to be very relevant, but I want to see stuff like skill trees and character customization. How deep does all that go? We've definitely seen a lot of different classes with their own gameplay and a big variety of weapons, but yeah, I just want to see more detailed looks at these things. I've also heard that the game features random drops, so I wonder how we progress our characters and parties and teams. I'm sure a level up system will exist with boss levels being on display, but I'm wondering about like our equipment. Can we hunt specific monsters and gather the materials to craft with, or is it going to be something totally different? I mean, as it stands, we've been shown more than ever, but I still want to know more. We still have no idea about the release date and little information about their monetization plans, other than a vaguer answer about cosmetics being sold, which we're pretty used to in games now. And to my knowledge, there's no confirmation on if they'll extend that to power or progression, but hopefully not. But that brings us to the end. So on that note, they've asked us to make sure you guys check out the game, follow Honor of Kings World on social media, subscribe to the newsletter, and through that, you'll be able to stay up to date with all the latest news and any fresh info. We plan to cover the news when it happens though, and hopefully we don't have too much longer to wait before we can finally try it. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.